Yo, what is up guys? In the last video, I installed a double DIN Android Auto head unit into my car, and today we're going to be reviewing it. Here it is, the ATOTO SA102 starter head unit. Also, shout out to Josh for noticing and complimenting my footwear from the last video. Made me blush. So I'm not going to take you guys through every single aspect of this head unit because that's kind of boring and it'll be really long. I just made a list of pros and cons that I'll quickly list out. That booted up reasonably okay, but if you're in a hurry somewhere, it's not the quickest thing in the world. So I'll start with the pros. I really like that this has physical buttons down here. It kind of helps when you're driving. If we go outside of Android Auto, we've got a really basic interface outside here, but it gives you the option to just use Bluetooth, watch videos through your USB and SIM card inputs, and radio, and you can look at your cameras if you have any hooked up, which I don't at the moment. The real flesh of this head unit lays in the fact that it has Android Auto, and as you can see, it's a really cool interface. Spotify looks awesome, Maps looks just as great. I'm gonna blur this out because it's got my location, but I'll put a picture of the interface up, and I think it's just awesome. Like, it looks great, it's what we're used to on our phones, so that's really cool. And when you flick your headlights on, it actually goes into night mode automatically, which again is a really cool feature. You can actually change the background to your liking, which I think is a neat little feature again. One thing I didn't know before getting this head unit was that they'd actually removed Netflix and YouTube from the suite of apps that can be used. I'm guessing people were streaming them while driving, and it must have left them open to some legal vulnerabilities. So that's a shame, because you can't really watch Netflix or YouTube on the screen and have it coming out of your audio like you used to be able to with Android Auto. I also really like that you can actually customize the sound quite a bit. It's got 5 audio bands, all different frequencies of the audio that you can control, which is really cool. You can then swap to your fader and your balance. A nice little graphic here, and you can move this dot around however you like. And you've also got subwoofer controls if you've connected the subwoofer up correctly. And finally, the biggest pro to this head unit is that it is really cheap. Now let's move on to the not so good stuff. When you swap between these, so say I have set my subwoofer down to 6 or something, and then I change the EQ settings, what'll happen is, even though this setting still remains the same, it'll swap over to this, and suddenly, like, my subwoofer will be at max and basically about to blow itself to bits. It's deafening. The settings don't persist across these different categories, they change, and to bring it back, I'd have to just literally touch this and change it one setting either way to make it realize that these are the settings I want again. So you kind of can't use these two in conjunction with each other, which kind of sucks. And I think that's kind of like a user experience flaw on their behalf. What's next? The actual head unit itself is slow and it's a bit clunky. Like, there's a big delay in this. When you're typing in using a keyboard, again, there's a delay, but that's excusable given the fact that this is probably one of the cheapest Apple CarPlay and Android Auto head units out there. Sometimes when I'm driving along, it'll randomly crash and restart, and that can happen up to 3-4 times within a 1-hour drive, so it's kind of annoying, but it restarts pretty quick. It is concerning though. It makes me think it's potentially overheating and going into a protective mode, turning itself off and on again. Another con of the ATOTO is the microphone they supply. It is garbage. It's absolute trash. Don't use it. Don't go to the trouble of routing it all the way up through your A-pillar and having it pop out here because it's useless. You're better off buying a different one off eBay or just sticking with the inbuilt microphone, which actually does an okay job. So yeah, even though the mic they supply is trash, at least they compensate for it with this inbuilt microphone, so you can still answer calls and people on the other end can hear you. So finally, in the cons. Even though there are physical buttons, it's still really sketch and really hard to press them when you're driving. Not an issue when you're parked, obviously, but massive when you're driving because they're still tiny and the surface area is so big you have to try and hit this while looking out the windshield and trying to navigate the buttons down here. This leads me to my final point and probably my biggest gripe with this head unit and probably all double-din head units out there. So this is a 1998 Honda Integra. It's old. Its stereo system was in a place where it's not meant to be fiddled with too much. You know, it wasn't designed with a touchscreen infotainment system in mind 23 or 24 years ago. It was just a single DIN and it had a big volume knob and a couple of big buttons, and that's that. In modern cars, you'll notice that the infotainment system is smack bang in the center, right here. It's easy to access using your fingers, and you can also, keep your eye on the road while also using the touchscreen. So this is an issue with all double DINs, not just the ATOTO, and it's probably in part due to who I am and how I function too, but I find it really sketchy to operate this thing on the road while driving, especially if, I get to a song that's got crazy bass in it and suddenly I need to adjust my subwoofer settings. I need to go all the way to subwoofer, use the slider, all while trying to focus on the road and, drive safely. So that's really annoying, and it's a lot sketchier than you'd think it initially would think it would be. I never had any experience with this because previously I had a single DIN, and didn't have to worry about any of this because my phone was up here and that single DIN operated on aux, not Bluetooth, so I'd have to control it using the phone. So what I've found is it's actually way better having my maps on my phone and controlling Spotify through my phone, because I can just quickly reach, tap, and still be looking out the front windshield without looking away for too long. Whereas when I'm down here, I have to reach, the buttons are fiddly, and the touchscreen navigation controls are again fiddly because it's a touchscreen. Sometimes you have to tap it twice, and so forth. So it's a massive issue, I think. Had if I known how annoying it would be to operate this properly, I wouldn't have got it. You can't even have maps up on your phone if you're connected to Android Auto. That leads me to the conclusion of this video. Is Apple CarPlay or Android Auto worth it? If you've got your setup over here, then it's good. But down here, it's annoying. It's kind of just not worth it. This little vent mount that I got does a much better job of what I need it to do. It's up here, it's easy to use, it's safer than reaching down, and yeah, in general it's a bit of a hindrance. It looks cool. I like that we can have reverse cameras hooked up to this, and it's a big, nice, fancy looking screen, but functionality wise it kind of doesn't cut it, especially because I don't even have a reverse camera. Well, there you have it. That is my opinion and verdict on not only the ATOTO SA102 but also double-DIN head units in general. So I hope you guys take something away from this, especially if you're thinking of getting this for an older car that has its entertainment system in a random position. You're better off using your phone and keeping your single DIN outdated setup, in my opinion, because it just works better that way. There is more Galant stuff coming, but not for a few more weeks. I'm still in uni, which is why you've probably noticed the frequency of these videos have dropped completely. There's just no time to make them, but when the holidays get started, it means I can finally put in some hours into the Galant, so I'm really looking forward to that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will catch you on the next one.
You say you got them guns, but I've never seen you bang. You say you got them drugs, but I've never seen